The wind felt sharp enough to slice through bone as Maren Hale stepped out of the cramped sheltered doorway that Christmas Eve morning. The sky looked washed out, the pale winter sun struggling to shine through a thick curtain of cold. Her hands trembled not from the temperature alone, but from the weight of everything she'd been carrying for months: the eviction, the sudden layoff, the endless job applications that never earned more than a polite rejection, if she was lucky. She pulled her threadbare coat tighter and checked the little pocket sewn inside. $10. Her last $10. Not enough for a proper meal. Not enough for a real plan. But enough to get her across the city, where a bakery manager had offered her a trial shift that afternoon. Enough to maybe change something. Enough to hope, barely. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul Moments Story. It helps more people find stories just like this one. Maren walked briskly toward the bus stop, the icy pavement crunching under her boots. At the edge of the sidewalk, a street vendor arranged roasted chestnuts, their warm scent drifting through the cold air and tugging painfully at her empty stomach. She kept her eyes forward. She could almost hear her late grandmother's voice: "You can go hungry for a day, but don't let your purpose starve." It was something she'd held onto since the moment her life had unraveled. Her grandmother had raised her alone, stitched her dresses by hand, taught her the art of making beauty from scraps. But when her grandmother passed away the previous year, the small, fragile world they had built seemed to collapse with her. As Maren reached the bus stop, she glanced at the posted schedule. The next bus to the bakery district would leave in 5 minutes. 5 minutes between staying on track or falling behind again. The city was especially chaotic on Christmas Eve, people rushing with gift bags, couples laughing over steaming cups of cocoa, kids dragging parents toward decorated store windows. All the joy buzzed around her like a reminder of what she didn't have. But she held her chin high all the same, trying to blend in with the holiday bustle. She could feel the crisp banknote against her palm as she boarded. $10 handed over to the fare box. Her last tie to any sense of financial safety falling away with the quiet ding of the bus machine. She swallowed hard, trying not to let panic gnaw through her. Once she reached the bakery, if all went well, she might end the day with a real chance. A real job. Something to rebuild with. She took a seat by the window as the engine grumbled to life, watching the city blur into streaks of frost and light. Her reflection looked pale, exhausted, but determined. The bakery, Rosecrest Sweets, was her one fragile hope. She'd never baked professionally, but her grandmother had taught her dozens of recipes, and the manager liked her story, or maybe her sincerity. Maren whispered a quiet prayer that everything would finally turn around. Halfway through the route, a mother carrying 2 heavy shopping bags tried to board the bus with her small son clinging to her coat. She fumbled through her purse, face growing distressed. "I thought I had. I swear I had change," she murmured. The little boy's eyes flicked nervously around the bus. The driver sighed, getting impatient. Maren barely thought. Something inside her, something stitched into her bones by her grandmother's constant reminders that the world was only as kind as people chose to be, pushed her forward. She tapped the driver's shoulder gently. "I can cover them," she said softly. The mother's eyes widened. "No, no, you don't have to." "It's all right," Maren said, even though her voice trembled. She handed over another small bill she'd forgotten she had tucked deep in her pocket, just enough to cover the fare. The driver waved them in. The mother mouthed, "Thank you," her eyes glossy. It wasn't money she could afford to lose. Those last couple of dollars were supposed to help her get through the day. But she remembered the many times strangers had helped her grandmother when she was a child: free fabric scraps from a seamstress, a neighbor who brought soup during the flu, small kindnesses that held them together. She couldn't ignore someone in need. Not even now. When Maren got off at her stop, she felt hollow with worry, but she straightened her shoulders anyway. She walked the last few streets toward the bakery, trying to breathe warmth back into her hands. Rosecrest was decorated with smiling gingerbread men and twinkling lights, the windows foggy from the ovens inside. Just as she reached the door, a handwritten sign stopped her in her tracks. Closed for emergency repairs, reopening after New Year. Her stomach dropped. "No," she whispered, blinking at the words as if they'd rearrange themselves. "Not today. Not after everything." The entire world seemed to tilt sideways for a moment. The note mentioned ruptured pipes, flooding, delays. There was no contact number, no instructions, nothing. The sidewalk spun beneath her feet. That trial shift was gone. The opportunity vanished like smoke. Maren folded her arms around her chest, feeling the cold dig deeper. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know what to do. The city lights blurred through tears she'd held back for too long. She started walking aimlessly toward the main road, her boots sloshing through melting slush. People hurried past her in colorful scarves, their laughter ringing out like echoes from another universe. Her steps slowed as she reached a busy intersection. That's when she felt it, the sudden hush of an engine rolling to stop beside her. A polished black limousine, its windows tinted, its sleek surface catching the pale daylight. She blinked, confused. The driver stepped out, dressed in a perfectly pressed suit and a warm, gentle expression. "Excuse me," he said, giving her a courteous nod. "Are you Maren Hale?" Her breath caught. "Yes. The lady inside would like a word with you." "A lady?" Maren's confusion twisted into nervousness. I think you have the wrong person." "No, ma'am." The driver smiled politely. "She's quite certain." The back door of the limousine opened, and a woman stepped out, elegant, maybe in her late 60s, wearing a fur-lined coat and a soft burgundy scarf. Her silver hair framed her face like a halo, and her eyes, warm, sharp, observant, studied Maren with a familiarity that made her chest ache. "Hello, Maren," the woman said. "My name is Seraphine Castle." Maren stared at her, still shivering from the cold, unsure whether to run or ask what was happening. Do I know you?" Seraphine smiled gently. "Not directly. But I knew your grandmother, Loretta Hale." The name punched the air from Maren's lungs. "You knew her?" "Yes. Your grandmother was my seamstress for many years. She altered gowns for charity events, for holiday galas. She was brilliant with her hands." Seraphine's expression softened. "And she was kind. The kind of person who gave more than she had, even when she had almost nothing." Maren felt her throat tighten painfully. "She was everything," she whispered. "I know," Seraphine said. "And she spoke about you constantly. I never forgot the way she described your spirit, your heart. After she passed, I tried to find you. I wasn't able to then. But this morning, my foundation director told me about a young woman who paid someone else's fare on a bus despite visibly struggling herself. He didn't know your name, but I recognized you the moment he described you." Maren blinked, stunned. "You were looking for me." "For a year," Seraphine said simply. "And I'm very glad to have finally found you." The wind swept gently around them, but for the first time that day, Maren didn't feel the cold. Seraphine gestured toward the limousine. "Come inside. You're freezing. I have something important to discuss with you." Maren hesitated. She had been trained by hardship to mistrust anything that looked too good, too easy, too shiny. But something about Seraphine, her sincerity, her familiarity, the way she said Loretta's name, felt safe. Maren slowly stepped into the limousine. Warmth enveloped her immediately. Soft leather seats, quiet music, a faint scent of pine. Seraphine sat beside her, folding her hands neatly. "I run a foundation," she began, focused on supporting young adults who come from difficult circumstances. "Loretta often talked about how talented you were, how creative, how determined. I read your file from the shelter. You've been through more than most can bear." Maren's eyes dropped to her trembling hands. "And yet," Seraphine continued, "you're still giving what little you have. That tells me everything I need to know." Maren swallowed hard, tears threatening again. "I'd like to offer you a position," Seraphine said. "A paid apprenticeship at my event company. It includes housing in one of our foundation apartments, job training, and a full starting wage. You'd begin next week." The world seemed to freeze. Maren stared at her, stunned into silence. I don't have experience. I don't have clothes for interviews. I don't." "You have heart," Seraphine interrupted softly. "Everything else can be taught." A sob escaped Maren before she could stop it. Her hands flew to her mouth as tears poured freely. Seraphine reached over and squeezed her shoulder gently. "This Christmas Eve," Seraphine said,